Yes, John.
Sorry
Yes.
about that. I apologize. I don't, let me sign out of my phone one, so I don't get doubled up. Do we have a quorum?
Yeah, we have quorum, and I will start the recording.
All right, thank you. Again, I apologize. All right. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, chapter 30A. What's going on? Can you hear me up? Chapter 30A, Section 18 of the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations to the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Economic Development Committee will be conducted by remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and/or general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend these meetings can be found on the Town of Southborough's website at www.southborotown.com. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch or participate in the meeting may do so in the following manner by finding the meeting at www.southborotown.com/remote meetings. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so despite our best efforts, we will post on Southborough's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Thank you. I'm going to call this meeting of the EDC to order at 7:37 on March 25th. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Chair report. Reports. I really don't have anything. I don't even remember what I've reported since the last time I've seen everybody. I've met with advisory. I've met with Capital, and we've met, I believe, with Shopsy. I'm meeting again with Shopsy in the morning, and I'll know more on that. So, members' reports. Status on proposed downtown district zoning bylaw. Julie, I will let you take it away on that.
So there's not a ton of new stuff, I don't think, to report since we last spoke. We are planning a forum for Tuesday, the 30th. I hope everyone here can attend that. It's going to be similar setup to the last one that we did. What we noticed was that, we had a pretty good attendance there, and I think a lot of people had questions and some valid points to bring up. So it's, there seems to be there were more people at that than there actually have been at the planning board hearing. So we want to just give people an opportunity to, explain why we think this is important and to answer people's questions. So I think that's, I don't think there's anything else. I don't know. Am I missing something? Marika?
The
Sorry.
Selectmen's having the forum on the 30th. Is that what you said?
Correct. So that's Tuesday.
And do you know what time that starts?
Oh, I should know.
I think it's 7:30, right?
I think so.
Thanks. All right. Anybody else have anything to follow up on that? Nothing? All right. Moving along. Marika, do you want to?
Yes, just a quick update on the Community One Stop. So Vanessa Hale will be coordinating the town's application. I just received yesterday afternoon. I just received an email from her, which she sent out to the different committees asking for particular information about the projects that people have proposed, and she will be submitting an expression of interest before April 2nd, which is next Friday. So there's not a lot of time. So Monday she's having a meeting. I'm not sure if everyone's invited or if it's just you and me, John, to kind of discuss our projects and also, I guess, capital planning. had proposed an infrastructure feasibility study for Route 9. And we are seeing how we can combine that because there's a bit of overlap between some of the projects between committees. So that's where we're at. So I'm just collecting, trying to collect as much information as possible so we can get the expression of interest submitted as soon as possible. Any questions regarding that program?
No, I have a SHOPSI meeting in the morning, and I know we'll be discussing that as well, what they're putting in.
Okay, and then, so if there's nothing else on that, the next thing is I send everyone the EDC newsletter for March with the attached, I guess, facts and figures for Southborough. So I just need to, I mean, if everyone had a look at it and has any comments, otherwise we'll approve it, you know, to be sent out.
It was really good. It's a great newsletter. I think it's such a great resource and very informative. So thank you. It was great.
Thank you.
The key thing I look at every time I see that is that 37% of the town's non-taxable. That's crazy. 37%. And out of curiosity, that doesn't include like the reservoir? That's actual property, correct?
So yes, that is. I think. I mean, yeah. There's unused land. Yeah. I mean, I don't have it right now.
Yeah. Anyway, no, you don't have to live. That's just.
Yeah. So, John, do you want to? I mean, do it. Any comments? Any changes? Updates?
All right. So first, so did everybody have a chance to take a look at it? I hope you did, because Marika put an amazing amount of work into it. I enjoy reading it. I think you did a great job, Marika. Thank you. And if everybody has had a chance to take a look at it and have no discussions on it, can I get a motion to approve it as written?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr.
I'll
Anderson.
second.
Thank you, Ms. Conley. So any discussion on it? All right, it's going to be a roll call vote. I'll do it as I see it. Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Conley?
Yep.
Mr. Moorhead? And that's it for us, right? That we have for committee. So passes unanimously. Myself, aye. Okay, so I can send that out, Marika.
Yeah. Thanks.
And
And I think that's all. I don't have anything else. So that's my report for this meeting.
okay. Claire, if you're there, if you want to give your grant reporting on the zoning and wastewater status, that would be great. Moving on.
Good evening, everybody.
Hey, Claire, how are you?
So the wastewater is going to start at the beginning of April. And once again, this is the preliminary. It's the preliminary feasibility study that is going to be done. So it's going to be about probably a month from start to finish. And then hopefully after that, there's additional money in the grant that will be able to get started on the next phase of this. So in other words, based on what they're saying is, where can they, what are the different options that are that can be had? Here's the thing. One of the things I think that is really important to include with this is what are the typical kinds of businesses that would be proposed? And we've discussed all that. So I think we have enough information to provide to Weston Sampson. And if people have changes as it goes along, they need to provide that. But once again, it's all tied in with the zoning. Questions?
Sounds like good news to me.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Well, that was quick and painless.
Well, thank you. That's how I like it to be. I think that the wastewater is turning into an easier part of it, at least the initial part. There, if you've been following some of the other things that are happening, not related to the downtown initiative, but related to the Chapter 90 project, keep an eye on that because that's something which is out of our control, but may also tie into what we're trying to do. And Karen and I have talked about this, and it's all TBD.
Okay. The Chapter 90. Now, how do they think that might tie in?
Well, here's the thing. What I'm referring to when I say Chapter 90, and you raise a really good question. So after the first part of the Main Street project, which went to Park Street, and then the rest of the project, which was going to provide the sidewalks and road construction and et cetera to the downtown part, is what I'm referring to as the Chapter 90 project, because that is what was going to be funded with town Chapter 90 money. Okay. So Karen and I have talked about there's a few things that are happening here in addition to the there are wastewater issues, there's the CSX issues, there's a lot of things that are have come up which had not initially been anticipated, but Karen is working through it to get resolution. Um, and it's going to take longer than had been originally planned, but it's still something that is not easy to get resolved, but is being worked on. I guess that's the easiest way without getting into the weeds, unless people have weeds questions, which, we can answer.
Does anybody have any questions for Claire?
In other words, in a nutshell, guys, the project that was supposed to start in spring, like next month, next month, spring 2021, has issues which need to get straightened out.
The CSX things, is that what's put the biggest hold on it?
Well, there's quite a few things, and I think that should not, with a project like this, it shouldn't come to a big surprise to anybody. But the thing is that it's being worked on. It may delay it. There have been no timeframes, but let's put it this way: the original April, May timeframe that had been talked about a year ago is not going to happen because we're right now at the end of July. And Karen just continues to work on these issues. Mainly, John, as you said, there are CSX issues that are not as easy to straighten out as had ever been imagined before.
And I'm assuming that's for the curb cuts at the railroad to make the
Well,
go across mostly.
Yeah, I mean,
and others that.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. I kind of thought so. All right. Does anybody else have any questions? All right, great. All right. Claire, you done then? So I can move on?
I'm done.
All right. So moving on. For discussion, Southborough Downtown District version 8 from March 9th, the latest draft. I'm assuming everybody had a chance to take a look at it in the packet and go through it and make sure all the changes that they wanted were in it. Everybody? Do we want to, I'm going to pose this question to you. Do we want to take a vote on this final draft now? Do we want to propose this as the final draft to the selectmen without us taking a vote on it, just because, I know the planning board's still having public hearings on it. So, we may have something we want to, I don't want to say, oh, let's take a vote, and then say, oh, no, let's not vote on it.
Should we wait until after the forum to see if we get feedback there too?
I think so. Yeah, I'd like to hear more from the public.
To be honest, so in the feedback that I've been hearing, and I've been to the planning board hearings on this. There hasn't been much discussion on the text of the bylaw itself. There's some sort of peripheral questions, particularly about the zoning map. People have concerns about the wastewater runoff, but as far as the actual four corners of the page of the document, people haven't been bringing it up. So there really hasn't been a lot of discussion on that. So I think I'm satisfied. I think we're sort of in agreement on most points, but I do want to take a look at it one more time. I do want to reconnect, and but I do think we should do that soon. But let's wait and see in case there's some significant issue that's raised after the forum. What's the point of having it if we're not going to get feedback from people and integrate it? So.
Yeah, I say we hold off on a final vote until after the forum, or at the forum. Maybe we can talk to the selectmen, see what their thoughts on when they plan on taking a final vote is. We can ask them that at the forum as well.
Correct, I agree.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Okay, so a little premature to vote on it tonight. Good. All right, good. I'm glad everybody's on the same page. So thank you for that. But I like the version we have so far. So I think that right now, barring any changes, that's the version that I'd recommend to the selectmen and the town. So, all right.
Before we go too far from the topic of the bylaw, I know there are some audience members here. So if we wanted,
I was just gonna ask the audience if they want to weigh in it, because I'm assuming that's what they're here for. So if there's anybody in the audience that you want to be heard or have any questions, if you want to raise your hands, I can promote you in. I don't see anybody. So, okay. Nope, nothing. All right, then moving on. District improvement financing, the DIF financing. Rob, by the way, that link you sent was really helpful.
Yeah, and I want to, and this is something that I wanted to bring up under discussion, and with full transparency at the beginning, this is a program that I'm learning about as part of my job at Mass Development. Mass Development is involved, helps communities take that step. What I was hoping to do was at least give some of the basics to this group, and then see if we wanted to bring in the experts from Mass Development to talk a little bit more in depth, because this could be a good tool to improve public infrastructure in Southborough, and it's tied with economic development. So I wanted to take just a few minutes to present and talk, and then see if we would potentially want to take that next step. Now, Marika, would it be possible to allow me to share my screen?
Should be okay.
Okay. No.
You should be able to. Do you see it at the bottom?
Yeah, no, it says host disabled participant sharing.
Oh, let me see if I can. I'll make you a host. How about that?
Oh, you don't have to.
I just
okay,
made you a
excellent.
co-host.
Yep, wonderful.
All right.
So basically, let me go back to, as I said, Mass Development runs this program. I just saw this presentation to the town of Lexington by a colleague who we could bring in. So basically, district improvement financing is a means by which a community can identify a district And then based upon that development and new tax revenue that's created in that location, devote those funds specifically to public infrastructure. So in thinking about the downtown, if the downtown were made a DIF district, if a new development went in there, that incremental increase in the value would go towards the public infrastructure within that district. The same thing could happen along Route 9. If we wanted to capture development along Route 9 for public infrastructure, such as traffic signals, sidewalks, that's how things can be used. Basically, DIF has been in Massachusetts for, going on 20 years. There are some communities, most often urban, that are taking advantage of this because you can actually have those projects that create the revenue that it can then make those significant infrastructure improvements. Now, these all have to be public infrastructure improvements, and they don't necessarily have to happen right where the development occurs. Let me, and I'll get to that in 1 second. So basically, this is how a DIF helps pay for the economic development. We identify a district, there's development, the incremental increase goes into a fund, and then that fund is used to improve public infrastructure. This is one of the most important things. What it basically does is identify the fact that this is an economic development tool. This would be something that the municipality would use to help recruit and retain businesses. It is not a new tax. That's one thing that I heard from my colleague who presented this. There is no new tax. There's no extra burden on residents. There's no extra burden on the developer. It basically means that that increment, very similar to a TIF, is captured, and that is set aside for public infrastructure. One of the other questions that came up from lots of people was, does 100% of that captured increment have to go towards the DIF and public infrastructure instead of going to the general fund? The answer is no. A community could choose to devote 25% of that to the public infrastructure and the 75% of the growth to the general fund. It's all determined based upon the municipality. And so this is kind of where I'm going to stop, because what I don't want to do is delve too deep into the weeds. But there are two aspects to it. There's the DIF district, which can be up to 25% of the community, but can be much larger than just where you want to see the development. As an example, you could do it along the Route 9 corridor, but include the adjacent and abutting residential neighborhoods as part of the DIF district. The IRD is where that tax increment, let me just go back, the tax increment here will be collected to be used and able to fund public infrastructure investments within the whole district. So theoretically, you could leverage development along Route 9 to improve public infrastructure on the adjacent neighborhoods to that development, such as sidewalks to Route 9, perhaps a walkway over Route 9 to connect Parkerville from one side to the other. The thing can also be used potentially, if we wanted to throw outside of the box ideas, if we wanted to create a public wastewater system in the downtown. The development that we see based upon that incremental increase could be used to pay for that public infrastructure that residents and businesses could potentially take advantage of. This is something that does require a town meeting vote. It does require actually writing up a plan, but it is a tool that some communities actually use to create developments. These are just a couple of case studies: Assembly Square and one in downtown Brockton. So I can stop sharing now. Stop share. But I just wanted to bring up the idea of a diff for future discussion, because if we do want to push development along Route 9, wouldn't it be great if we could capture that increment and devote it to public infrastructure to improve the quality of life for residents? So thank you for allowing me this brief time to give a small overview.
John, you're on mute.
Your overview's given me a million questions that I'll probably be asking more of later on as I figure out where else we could work it. So this sounds like it would be great when you were talking about the residential land behind it, where I'm just going to use Parkerville Road and the Cas building, for instance. So Cas building, it's got 8 acres behind it that's Res A or Res B, because you can, I believe that the way our zoning is, it's 250 feet from the center of Route 9 is considered industrial highway or whatever. I forget the name of it called. Behind it, behind that is residential. So if you had a diff on that area, if we made, like, just say Route 9 from Route 85 west, to
Yep.
495, if you just want to make it a certain area that needs the most help, like, because that does, you've got the Andrea that's a blight, the buildings next to it aren't much better, Cas building empty, and then the money you capture for that could go to put sidewalks from Parkerville, because the south side of Parkerville has no sidewalk pretty much all the way down to, I think it starts at Gilmore at the bridge and then goes under it and it goes down to the end of the street. So we could feasibly get a sidewalk out of that from infrastructure.
As long as the Parkerville roadway and that area were part of the DIF district. And so that's where you have to identify where you draw the boundaries, and which is why you come up and develop a DIF plan to say, within this district, these are some of the things we want to improve: sidewalks, roadway paving, traffic signals, things like that are identified as part of the DIF project scope. It's a development plan, basically. And then if there is development, that increase in value goes to the public infrastructure.
So can you tell me the advantages and disadvantages of the residential properties behind these things being part of that district?
There isn't any true disadvantage for them. Because let me put it to you this way: if someone were to go into the Cas building and develop it right now and increase the value, those funds from the Cas being developed go directly into the general fund.
Okay.
Within a DIF district, a portion of that increase goes towards public infrastructure. So you're almost putting the town in a position to invest in things that improve transportation, walkability, sewer, water, and the like.
The reason I ask that is, as we've been saying before, the problems that when we've talked to some of the business on Route 9 is turnaround access, and they'd rather it be at Parkerville if they could have something there, or different things like that, or different lights. And my question is, so if it can only be 25% of the town, the area of the town total for that's all diff areas, because you could have 5 different diff areas that you identify. Is that what you're saying? As long as the sum of it doesn't come to 25%, or you only have one?
I believe that they have to be contiguous, but that's a question for my colleague that runs it. But what you can't do is say, we're going to create the diff and cover the whole town. It actually has to be focused on an area where you want to see development, which is why in my overview, I kind of talked a little bit about the downtown and Route 9 corridor.
But they're not contiguous. That's why I asked. So which is it? I mean, what would fit that diff better? In my eyes, Route 9 corridor from 85, west to 495, that whole both east and westbound sides would be the best fit for that. But
I think that's where you have the best chance at. Route 9 is where you have the best chance of capturing the most
exactly.
value.
I mean, we're in decent shape right now, most of Route 9, but that section seems to be.
Well, and this is where I can hear in the back of my mind my colleagues suggesting a consultant could be useful, because quite honestly, depending upon how you drew the boundaries, let's say, you could contiguously connect downtown with Route 9. And if you were able to connect those both and you saw the development along the Route 9 corridor, I can tell you from driving along 85 that there's no sidewalk there, especially when you cross over the reservoirs leading to the downtown and leading to the golf course and public safety. If we do see development along Route 9, the idea of connecting in sidewalks along 85 might make it useful to encourage people to walk from that area, or support the golf course or something like that. That's where a consultant would be useful, which is why I wanted to at least float the idea out there and potentially ask my colleague to come in and talk a little bit more, because it might be something that we want to do, especially if the CAS and the two restaurants right there are focuses of development.
I'm sorry to keep taking abrupt time, but one more question. Now, could we somehow write this into the one-stop grant to find out a feasibility of whether this would be a good fit for a diff district? Or is that double dipping?
Yes. As I said, I can hear in the back of my mind my colleagues saying that a consultant would be imperative to getting this passed. Theoretically, you can submit for within the one stop for a consultant to help you write out the development plan and the language that would come along with a diff.
We have an attendee that asked if the panelists that not speaking would mute themselves to stop the feedback. So I'll try. Hopefully that helps, Mr. Miller. Seem to. So yeah, I'd be interested in having your colleague come in.
Yeah, he'll probably go through the exact same thing. He knows more than I do. And I just thought that this could be a useful tool to explore. And if it's not a right fit, then there's no obligation for us to adopt or take it. It's just another tool that we could potentially explore to help offset some of the infrastructure costs that might come along with development.
Rob, that's something that we'd probably have to put in place over the next year to bring to town meeting 2022.
Yes, because it would have to go to town meeting. We would have some time. It's not anything that we would want to rush into. And we'd also probably want to talk to another community, perhaps someone closer in size, as opposed to Somerville or Brockton that's adopted it, and maybe see how they what type of success they saw.
Did Westboro adopt that for their downtown? Did I see that not long ago for that the Roach Brothers area? I think they may have. I remember they did. They converted that as some sort of a district to try to.
I can do a little bit of research on that, but if they did it, that'd be a perfect case study.
And then my last question to you, Rob: should when you have your colleague come in, should I invite the capital planning to come in? Because I know they've been talking to me, and I've met with them a couple of times about infrastructure on Route 9 for wastewater and things like that. Would that be something that capital might want to get involved in so they could understand it a little bit as well?
Yes, because I've tried my best to explain it, and there are even some things that I don't understand on the full program. So having them there, and oftentimes I have to imagine there is a project that's in the pipeline where they say, okay, listen, we've got someone coming in here, like perhaps in Westboro downtown, and we know that there's going to be a public infrastructure need. Let's put the diff in place so that we can capture it and devote it to those things that we deem important. We don't necessarily have a project. We have an area that we'd like to see developed. So the question is really, do you put the diff district in there first and hope the project comes, or you wait for the project and then do the diff? I don't know the answer to that question, which is one I think we should ask.
Rob, who would have to initiate this? It's like the town would have to come from the board of selectmen, or how would that work?
It has to be, the diff district has to be adopted at town meeting. And there are, in cities, usually it's the city council. We would probably want to coordinate with the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board, simply because development is tied to the diff. The diff doesn't do anything with zoning. It doesn't do anything with the uses that can go in there. It's simply a finance element. But because planning is a leader in trying to attract business as well, and would be on the front lines of hearing the projects promoted within the district, they should be involved. But I would expect come directly from the select board.
So does it make sense for us to, discuss this and do some, form of presentation like this, especially if we, agree ourselves that there's a particular area to that might work, and sort of present a project to them for their consideration?
Yes, as Michael said, because it has to go to town meeting, we have a little bit of time, and this is the first small step. I was imagining it in the back of my head that we get the presentation from my colleague, we see if it's something that we deem worthwhile, then we go to the next Board of Selectmen, the other people, and then we've got about a year to implement it if need be. And so I figured I wouldn't want to waste the select board's time at this early stage until we learn a little bit more and see if it's a tool that we feel comfortable using.
Sounds promising.
That makes a lot of sense. When do you think you could have your colleague come in?
I can give him a call tomorrow and find out.
Yeah, please do. I think that would be a very interesting meeting, and I think it'd be worthwhile to hear about.
Yeah. Okay.
We could get on our next agenda if anybody's if everybody's not opposed to it. I'd like to hear from them.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll find out what his availability is. When's the next meeting? Just remind me.
Tentatively, it's Friday, April 9 in the morning, 8:15.
Yeah. Sorry, it took me too long to get my glasses on because my contacts just aren't enough and my arms aren't long enough without my glasses. So.
Okay, excellent. I'll do some outreach and hopefully bring him in, and he'll delve a little bit more in and be able to answer some of those questions better than I can.
I look forward to it. Thank you, Rob.
Thanks.
All right. Does anybody have any questions besides all the ones I've asked? And I apologize for hogging you. Does anybody else have anything to ask him? How about anybody in the audience? Anybody in the audience have any questions for me? You can raise your hand. I can. Nope. Okay. Moving on. Southborough resident survey. Marika, do you want to touch base on that, or do you want me to?
So yeah, I had distributed the South Row resident survey. We got a request from Mr. Probst to have a look at it and see if we had any comments, you know, for it. So I did receive a bunch of comments from Alan, which I promised I would forward to him. I'm not sure if anyone else had anything specific that they wanted me to pass on to Mr. Probst.
Nothing from me. Do you know, I was at the transfer station last weekend and there was a couple of guys handing out a flyer for a citizen survey. Do you know if that with a QR code on it? Do you know if that was for that?
It might. I don't know. I did reply to him. I didn't get a reply back, and I'm not sure when he was trying to finalize it because he sent it about a week ago. Yeah. So that's interesting. So
For the most part,
yeah.
it was a pretty decent survey, and I'd love to see what they come back with once that's all said and done.
Yeah.
So did anybody have any questions or comments on the survey that they wanted us to bring up, or Sam just chimed in that was for the Youth and Family Services that they were the survey they were doing.
Okay.
If anybody else has seen that, I don't know if anybody else seen it online. Youth and Family Services did have a survey that was actually pretty good. I did it, and hopefully, if you have time, you could take it and help them out. So, does anybody have any more questions or anything on the resident survey? No. All right, then. Moving on. We're down to administrative services, administrative business. Approval of minutes from February 25th and March 12th. I'm hoping that everybody saw the minutes and had a chance to review them.
Hey, folks.
The revised one.
Yeah, just make sure. So let's take February 25th first. And the one that I hope everybody's looking at is the version 2. I apologize for any confusion. There was kind of an omission around lines 28, 29, which I filled in. So that is really the only change on that. Does anybody have any questions?
No, your red line was pretty self-explanatory to me.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Not as much as I do, because I'm a little slow on the uptake. So thank you for
Hey,
that.
I'll beat you to it.
All right. So do I have a motion to accept the minutes from February 25th as amended by Claire's email today for the draft?
Version 2.
Version 2?
Yep.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor? I'm going to go as I see it. Ms. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Moorhead? You're on mute.
I will abstain. I was not there.
Okay. Ms. Duca?
Yes.
And myself, aye. So it passes 4-0-1 abstention. All right. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes from March 12th as written?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Duca. All right. Any discussion or changes or? All right. Again, it's got to be by roll call vote, so I'm going to call it as I see it.
John,
Yes.
Can I just, do you want to, this was a little confusing on my part, and I went back and looked at the recording. So I separated out a particular area there, starting at a line 35 on the it's line 35, and it said that it had to do with contingency. There was a vote taken, in a nutshell, there was a vote taken that Rob had made a motion on for the, when the zoning got put forth, that the contingency would be added to re-examine the map and work with the planning board to withdraw the boundaries. This has to do with, approving what the planning board was looking at and also including their requirement or their thought at the time about the map, which is kind of an ongoing thing. And without getting the whole thing into a whole big complicated thing, after the vote was taken, it was discussed about putting a time frame in, and that's why if you look at the text that I put in there, I think the easiest way to do this is I just put it in there as part of the responsibility of correctly reporting on the minutes. But maybe the best way to do it would be to just say, just take that out. Because there was a discussion about a time frame for the contingency of adding a zoning map change, but there was never a motion that was made. There was a motion made to approve as specified in lines 29, 30, and 31. That there would be a contingency to re-examine the map. Okay, so that's fine. Then the second part was to add a time frame, which came up after the vote was taken. Any questions on that so far? This is a little confusing, and I went back.
If I remember correctly, Claire, I think, I don't know that we needed to take a position on that, and I'm certainly happy to hear from
Well,
other
you're exactly right.
But
that's the point of what I was getting to.
Yeah, because I think because I know some of the concerns that we had been hearing. One of the concerns was, about changing to the zoning map, which, I'm not opposed to, but I think we discussed was a separate matter, and we were also, concerned that it wouldn't be possible to get it done prior to town meeting, and it was actually a completely separate subject because it didn't have to do with the uses, it had to do with the boundaries.
And not only that, doesn't have anything to do with responsibilities of the EDC.
Exactly. So I think, if I remember correctly, what we were talking about was, as a discussion point with Board of Selectmen, with planning, with others, if there are legitimate concerns about the zoning map, which it sounds like there may be, but we don't really know because we also haven't had the opportunity to even speak to the property owners of the properties in question, saying, putting something in the bylaw potentially that says, okay, and the map will be reviewed and revised, and putting something, or not putting in the bylaw, but putting in the along with the warrant article that would be considered in a at some point
exactly
at the meeting or something like that.
So my recommendation would just be and the only reason that I put it in, which was actually copied directly from the transcript in order for accuracy, my recommendation would be to just strike what I put in from lines 35 through 58, which is in the draft copy that you guys have. And it's only a draft copy.
I was not at that meeting, so I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I don't know how substantive.
For simplification
simplicity,
purposes, it
sounds
really
like it
doesn't.
makes sense to pull it. And what's nice is the transcript, and it's still on
There
the
you
Zoom
go.
meeting if anybody
Yep.
has anything.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, we could just put something broad in that we discussed it. I mean, I don't think we need to take it out of a draft, for transparency purposes. It is something we discussed.
Well, actually, that is what is in the motion. where it says there will be a contingency to re-examine the map and work with the planning board to withdraw the boundaries. That got approved. So that's a done deal. The second part of it was what came up in terms of a time frame for it, which really doesn't have anything to discuss. The reason that I'm bringing it up is because there was a discussion and a quasi vote taken without a motion being made. And maybe I'm becoming too technical as far as minutes go, but hey, what the heck? Might as well. So my recommendation would be to just take out, as I said, the time frame included in it, because the contingency, as Julie said, had already been voted on. I apologize. I think I've caused more confusion here than.
No,
Do you
I
need
think
me to run through that again real quick?
No, Claire, I don't think you need to. Like I do think it's a wise idea to re-examine the map and come back with the potential to redraw some of it, especially on the split lots. That was the motion that was made, and that's what we voted on. I think what was discussed afterwards was the timing, and
Exactly.
so
Yep.
so since we didn't vote on the timing, it could be a discussion item, but we didn't take any vote. So I don't think we can be held to it. So, I think we can just say that there was a discussion about the timing of when that map would be brought back to town meeting. And that covers, I think, everything that we talked about.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So do I have a motion to add that as an amended thing? And Julie,
No, you don't want to do that.
real quick,
But
could you mute? I'm getting a lot of back. Sorry. So Rob, do you want to make a motion with to accept with the verbiage that you just added?
Yeah, I would suggest just editing the draft to indicate that a discussion was held on the time limit for bringing it back to the planning board, but no determination was made.
Okay.
For a process thing, do I need whoever made the original motion to accept the minutes as written to withdraw their motion and a second motion be done?
No, that's not actually what's happening, because
Just making
the
sure. I just want to make
motion.
sure I'm doing it correctly.
Yeah. Okay. So
Because
the
I know we had a
motion.
motion to accept them as written, and now we were in discussion, and now it's an amendment. So I think we need to withdraw the motion to amend them because we've had the discussion. So I'm going to do that anyway, just to be safe than sorry.
Well, you sure this is what you want to do?
To add that in, yes.
Here's the thing.
Yes, that is what we want to do. I think that's what we just discussed. That way we have it in
It's
there.
up to you guys.
I mean, that way it just says that there was discussion, and that way for transparency, I'd rather keep it in, even if it's just simple. Do you guys agree or do you disagree? I wasn't there, so I don't know how substantial it was. Do you want to pull it? Do you want to?
Well, I don't think we want to pull it because we had that discussion.
I agree.
It's just no determination was made.
Right,
So
I agree with Rob. I'd rather have it in than not, personally, and I wasn't even there.
yeah, because we can, for transparency, we can acknowledge there was a discussion, but
Yeah.
when there's a discussion and no finalized outcome, it's what happened. So
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so how about that after that vote was taken, which was extremely clear, and I put that in the minutes. Okay. And then following after that, a discussion was held in terms of when the boundaries would be drawn for the next town meeting. That included would be the boundaries would be drawn for the next town meeting. And it's very clear because that is the reason that I put the text that you see copied in there. That's a specific reason why I did that. All right, so to simplify, there was a vote that was taken that there would be, that EDC would support a position that when the zoning article is brought forward, there would be a contingency to re-examine the map and work with the planning board to redraw the boundaries. That was the motion that was made. That was passed. Subsequent to that, there was a discussion in terms of a time frame.
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
That's it. That's
Now
yep.
what happened after that?
Nope. That's
Okay.
what we
All right.
that's what we
Okay.
discussed.
All right. Perfect.
You're muted, John.
Sorry, thank you. Yeah, that's all I want. I just think that's something there that if anybody wants to follow the discussion, they can look it up on the transcript or on YouTube. But I just think it should be there as such, personally. And again, I wasn't there, but I just think it needs to be there. So who made the motion to accept them as written initially? Do you remember? Julie did? Okay, so Ms. Conley, do you want to withdraw your motion?
I do.
Thank you. And then, Rob, do you want to make a motion to have the minutes as amended with that?
I would like to make a motion to accept the March 12th EDC minutes with the amendment discussed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Julie. All right, any more discussion? All right, great. Roll call vote. Ms. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Moorhead?
I'm staying because I wasn't there.
I thought you were at that one on the 20th
Yeah.
to 12th.
I missed last two.
Okay. I'm going, geez, I was going to abstain, but you know what? I wasn't there, but to make it a full vote, a passing vote, I will say aye as well. So it passes 4-0-1. All right. Moving on. We have no more unfinished business, no new business. And our next meeting is April 9th. I think that's it. I'm going to just go to the attendees and see if anybody has any comments or questions or wants to talk about anything or bring anything up for a future agenda. I don't see any hands raised, so, I think, Mr. Miller, Marika, can you let Mr. Miller speak, please? I think you're on, Mr. Miller.
Yes, thank you. I'm delighted to hear the clarification of the minutes of the previous meeting of this committee, that you've now confirmed that you plan to bring forward a zoning bylaw to town meeting with the full acknowledgement that the map needs to be re-examined, with the contingency that you intend to re-examine the map, but with no plan whatsoever when it will be done. Maybe a week, a month, a year, 10 years. At some point, maybe you'll get to it.
It's not in our purview. That's a planning
Their
board thing.
responsibility and not yours.
What's that, sir?
This is got to be the most, honestly, the most absurd thing I have ever heard in my life. A zoning bylaw brought forward with clear acknowledgement that the map is problematic, and you're going to tack on a contingency that says, oh, we promised to re-examine it someday, somehow, somewhere, but we won't tell you when. Thank you for confirming that decision. I look forward to debating it with a larger public.
That, again, that's not our purview to do that. That's a planning board thing. That same zoning map has been in effect for years, and it really
that's
doesn't
untrue,
change much
Mr. Wood, and I look forward to the planning board then taking up their responsibilities.
Okay. I do know, if it helps, so I do know that Sarah sent out an email a while back, and it had the timeline of, that zoning area and such. And
I will tell you, Mr. Wood, that it is absurd that this committee considers questions about the map, quote, peripheral, that they consider questions about wastewater created by 12-unit condo or apartment buildings over a mixed-use development peripheral. And when Mr. Anderson presents his presentation on a DIF, then goes on to speculate that money raised by a DIF could be used to deal with wastewater in the downtown. Where, I wonder, Mr. Anderson, would it be perhaps on the National Grid property that the Board of Selectmen has voted now to forego attempting to acquire? And if so, have you discussed it with the abutters on School Street who would find a wastewater treatment plant in their backyard?
Well, Mr.
Perhaps
Miller,
the DIF would raise enough money to pipe the wastewater over to your area of town.
well, Mr. Miller, what I'm hoping
Absolutely, the conduct of this committee has been outrageous. You're determined to get your agenda through at all costs, and the more you talk, the more you reveal about yourself. So thank you for the clarification on your minutes from the last meeting. I took contemporaneous notes, and indeed, I can tell you that the matter of revisiting the map was, quote, to be done by next town meeting.
Yes, and Mr. Miller, if I may answer some of your questions, thank you again for your comments. What I would say is that at least within the minutes, we did not take a vote to identify.
Ms. Reynolds clarified that clearly.
Yes.
And my contemporaneous notes made that a point you did not need to clarify for me.
Oh, no. And what I'm saying is that it is important to review the map. The committee has identified the map as being an important element to it. The one thing that the zoning does do is use the existing outlines of that area for the boundaries. And what we want to do is adjust that so that we can spur some type of reinvestment in the downtown to improve what's there. And I think I speak for almost everyone in town, is improving the town is what we want to be able to do. And there are tools out there. The tool like the DIF, and hopefully you come to our next meeting, is a tool that can be used to help leverage that investment to get some of those things and improvements that we want. And I would hope that if you listen and take the time to come to that meeting and find out about the DIF and how it could be used, you can see that it could be a benefit to improve what we have. Now, it's in terms of the timing on the map, because I feel like somewhat attacked by being the person who made the amendment to those minutes. We didn't take a vote. I think it's important that we do. And I would say that if we had taken a vote, next town meeting would be the perfect timeline. I would suggest that when you're at the public hearing, you say, I would like to see that the planning board take that action by next town meeting to help redraw the map. I think that would be well within your rights and probably welcomed by the planning board.
That's completely unacceptable, and you know it. There is no person on earth that buys a property with a contingency to examine the limits or boundaries of their property to be determined at some time after the closing.
Did you know they looked at? I don't know if I'm on mute or not. Mr. Miller, if you go back to, they've been looking at that. What's funny is they looked at those split lots back in the ZAC, in the zoning back at, I think that was what, 2008, when they were doing the ZAC plan, and they actually, I think they had a way to fix it, to get rid of the split zone, but I don't think it was ever enacted. So I don't, again, it's not our purview. It's
Again,
not my thing to
members
do,
of this
but it
committee
doesn't
have
look like
already
it would
made
be
it
that
clear
big of a
that
deal to fix that.
the members of your committee have already made it clear, it's on record, that you were muscled by your consultant to take a path of least resistance, which was to not address the map. That was your choice. I understand it, but it was a tactical error. And now you've put yourself in a position where you know you have to address the map and you don't have the time left to do it. I'm very sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but that's not going to go down.
Okay.
Thank you for your
Can I
time.
just say something to, even though I'm not an EDC committee member, I'm the EDC coordinator and I've been involved in this project for the last 2 years. I just want to know that what is it that you are worried about in the proposal that we make to change some of the uses, or the downtown that we have in the downtown district bylaw? Because we are just trying to improve what is already there. I mean, currently it's the downtown business village district. It's already there. Those boundaries have been there since 1955. So we are trying to update the uses of that area. So, and the EDC was actually asked by the planning board to go and present, work on this and present it to them, because we were looking at allowing for mixed use, among other things. Like John said, the EDC is not in charge of deciding to change the boundaries of existing zoning districts. So my question is, what are you worried about in the changes that we've made in the new downtown district?
I think I've made that clear.
Now, can you repeat it? Because I don't know.
You cannot bring forward a zoning proposal without a coherent map, for starters. I think I'm going to reserve my comments for the planning board and the board of selectmen and town meeting, because clearly this committee has its clear agenda, is not listening, is taking a very high-handed approach. On your meetings, you repeatedly cite the fact that you don't know what the neighbors think, that you don't know what people on Lattisquama think, that you don't know what the abutters to think. Well, you've had time to find out, and now you're finding out. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. And I look forward to seeing you at other meetings. And again, I thank you for your comments. All right. Anybody else? Any comments in the public? Nope. Anyone else? All right. So our next meeting is going to be the 9th at 8:15. And
yes,
hearing.
I can. Sorry, the next meeting I have as Friday, April 9,
At 8:15.
in the morning, 8:15.
And we have the hearing with the Board of
Tentatively?
Selectmen, the forum with the Board of Selectmen on Tuesday.
All right. And is there, I think there's another planning board public hearing as well, but I'll send out the dates of
Yeah,
the
the
meetings.
planning board, I believe they have this as a standing agenda item on their, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that they've had it as a standing item. All right. Anything else from anybody? No. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, it's gonna be roll call. I'll call it again as I see it. Ms. Conley,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Moorhead,
Yes.
Ms. Duca,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Thank you all for being here tonight and have a wonderful evening. And I look forward to seeing everybody at the forum for the selectmen on Tuesday night. Thanks, everybody. Take
Well,
care.
see you then.